We are going to be making an NBA tier list on the preseason of the 25-26 season. Even though there hasn't been much gameplay between these teams, these are just my preseason predictions and just my opinion, so don't get mad if you don't agree. Alright, starting off with the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks have an actual chance in this quite bad Eastern Conference this year. I don't think that they're a top 5 team. They're definitely a top 10 team. I don't think a top 5 team. They just got Kristaps Porzingis in the offseason, and they also got Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the offseason. They had a decent core before a piece they lost that I think will kind of hurt them this season is Clint Capella. He was a good backup center behind the rookie Okongwu at the time. But based on their roster now and how they've been doing in their 1 or 2 preseason games, I'll put them in smaller chances of the title, but getting there. All right, next is the Boston Celtics, one of the more drastic teams that had trades and changes this season. I don't know. I know they just did that because of salary cap reasons, but it's just like they went from a title contender to, they're still kind of good, but based on how they used to be, they're just not good. They got Anthony Simons, who I had as one of my sleeper point guards last season, which he kind of disappointed me and some other people, but they got him, and then they got, I forget who else they got, but anyways, they got Georges Niang, who a lot of people have probably never even heard of, but he's Kristaps Porzingis for Georges Niang. I know it was because of salary cap, but that's just insane to even think about. So I think even though they just made a lot of trades, I think they could use some trades to get back up there into contention. All right, next team is the Brooklyn Nets. I don't even know if I have to explain. They were terrible last season, and if it couldn't get any worse, they traded away Cameron Johnson and got Mike. They got Michael Porter Jr., which honestly to me is a downgrade. And I don't know. I have them being the worst team in the NBA this season. So with that said, could use a rebuild. All right, the Charlotte Hornets. They actually got some good pieces this season. Let's just look at the roster real quick. They got Con Knipple, who is definitely showing out and is very good. Was very good in the summer league. They got Tajane Salon, who is really developing. They got Grant Williams, who's kind of an old head at this point, but still kind of good. Colin Sexton, who was definitely good for the Utah Jazz, even though the Jazz weren't a good team. Hopefully he can show that on the Hornets. Spencer Dinwiddie, good point guard. Mason Plumlee, good big man. Miles Bridges had some problems, but still good. Josh Green, decent. LaMelo Ball, nothing needs to be said. And yeah, they just got a well-rounded roster. But I don't think they'll make it too far into the season, so I have them. They could use some trades, but if they got a few good trades, they might be able to be up in these 2 tiers. Not in this tier, but in these 2. All right, the next is the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls, they're just, I don't know. I don't even know what the Chicago Bulls' plan is. They got Nikola Vucevic. I don't know if they're rebuilding. They got Josh Giddey, so I don't know if they're rebuilding. I don't know if they're trying to tank. I don't know if they're trying to be good again, but they got a promising young talent in Modest Buzelis, but that's pretty much the brightest light in their future. So with that said, they're just stuck in mediocrity. That some would say they could use a rebuild, but they still have some good players, so I'll just put stuck in mediocrity. All right, next team is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Has a very good chance of making it out of the East and into the finals this season. They have a really good team. They should probably trade Jarrett Allen to really unlock Evan Mobley's true defensive potential and starting. Well, Evan Mobley's already starting, but make him the main big man so that he just won a Defensive Player of the Year, and I feel like if they got rid of Allen and got some more assets like picks or a good player or two, they could definitely be a little better than they are right now. But I do still think that they're like right there. They're like a 5th or 6th team this season, in my opinion. So I don't know. It's a hard decision between these two. But I guess since they have a good chance to make it to the finals from the East this season, I'll put them in title chances. All right, next we got the Dallas Mavericks. Went from being one of the most laughed at teams to like saying "I told you so" to everybody with their Cooper Flag happening to be on their team now. To be honest, I didn't think they were that bad before we figured out that Cooper Flag was going to be the number 1 pick because their roster was quite good. They have Max Christie, who's a promising young talent. They got Anthony Davis, who is starting to get a little worse due to age, but still good. Dante Exum, good bench player, decent bench player. Cooper Flag, very promising. Daniel Gafford, a very good backup center. Kyrie Irving, who's coming back. Derek Lively, the second, good forward and center. Caleb Martin, who was undrafted, but he's started to become pretty good. Ryan Nembhard, who I wish the Pacers would have drafted to link up with Andrew Nembhard. Dwight Powell, good bench player. D'Angelo Russell will be the starting point guard until Kyrie comes back. Klay Thompson, a lot of people say he was washed, but I think he's still kind of good. And P.J. Washington, who's a very solid forward. He's probably on like Devin Vassell and maybe even DeAndre Ayton level when it comes to skill, even though he's a forward/center, but that's about the skill level he is. So with that being said, I think that the Dallas Mavericks they don't have title chances, but they could squeak in there, so they're a sleeper team. All right, next is the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets have made so many of the right decisions this season. Look at their roster real quick. Broncos. Yeah, they got Aaron Gordon, who's always just been a solid player for them. Cameron Johnson, who they got from the Nets, who is going to be a very good supporting behind people like Tim Hardaway and Jamal Murray. They got Moses Brown, who a lot of people have probably never heard of, but he played for the Pacers for a little bit, for a 10-day, but they let him go. And I think he was pretty good just for playing a few minutes a game. He averaged like 4 points, so just for a few minutes, that's pretty good. Tim Hardaway. Jalen Pickett has been showing some decent numbers in the summer league, so it's kind of interesting to see how he'll do. Jamal Murray, clutch up guy. Jonas Valanciunas, I was really hoping he'd stay on the team and not go to Greece, and luckily he did because I was hoping to see how Giannis would do with some break time and a decent backup center. Christian Brown, or Braun, however you want to say it, is good. I don't really like him, though. He's honestly one of my least favorite players in the league. Bruce Brown, very underrated player, played for the Pacers, but he's just very underrated, and I'm glad to see him back with the Nuggets. And Nikola Jokic, who should have probably won MVP over Shea last season, but we don't talk about that. So Denver Nuggets, they have title chances. It's just, yeah, they're probably my either third or fourth favorite team because I just like how they did all the right moves this season, and yeah, the GM on that team has to be being praised right now. Next is the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons have made a lot of moves that a lot of people didn't see them making this season. They have Jalen Duren, who is a good center, good lob threat. Ozar Thompson, who a lot of people see a bin over him, but he's very underrated and still a very good forward, and even can be a shooting guard. Duncan Robinson, who's one of the best sharpshooters in the NBA right now. Cade Cunningham, probably going to make All-NBA first team this year. Tobias Harris. Jimmy Butler said Tobias Harris over me, but I believe that Tobias Harris is better than a lot of people say he is. Isaiah Stewart, who they should probably trade already. He's kind of ruining their reputation. Ron Holland, who's good forward. Chaz Lanier, who I heard they drafted, and he'll probably not get much playing time, but I don't know, maybe he'll develop over the season. Karis LeVert, who's solid off-the-bench player, and Jaden Ivey, who will probably start over him. So they got a pretty good shooting guard era with Jaden Ivey starting and Karis LeVert off the bench. It's a pretty good duo. So with all that said, I think the Detroit Pistons will be a sleeper team this season. They're not one of the top teams. I say they're like in 10 to 15, ranked 10 to 15, but they're a sleeper team. They might squeak into the second round and maybe even the Eastern Conference Finals because the East is so bad this season, but I don't think they'll make it to the finals. They'll probably make it to the second round, if that, this season. All right, next is the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors are a very old team, as everybody probably knows. They acquired Al Horford over the offseason. They did not trade Jonathan Kuminga. They probably should have traded him for like Colin Sexton or something. Colin Sexton and a pick. That would have probably been a good trade. But Jonathan Kuminga is just kind of bringing the team down. He's kind of a ball hog, and they could have traded him for like 2 first-round picks or something. They didn't even have to get a player in return. They could have just got another shooting guard from the draft, got a pick from another team. But we don't even have to look at the Warriors roster. They pretty much got all the same guys. A really underrated guy from the playoffs last season was Quentin Post. A lot of people say, like, who is that? Why did we draft him? Quentin Post is actually a decent player. He was good at the starting center when Draymond wasn't in, and I think he is just quite good, as not many people say he is. So I'll put Warriors could use some trades. All right, next team is the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets is my second favorite team in the NBA, and it was very sad to hear that Fred VanVleet was going to be out for the season because we actually had a chance to be up here this season. Like, it was just so sad that a whole season being ruined. We, of course, got Kevin Durant over the offseason, Clint Capella coming back, who I'm very happy about because he's getting older, but he's still underrated. He's pretty good in the paint, getting some rebounds. We got Josh Okogie over the offseason, who is a very good bench player. I saw him on the Suns. He was just pretty good for them when they had Chris Paul and Kevin Durant in them. So Kevin Durant and Josh Okogie coming back together might be some chemistry. Jabari Smith Jr., good young player. Dorian Finney-Smith, very good throughout his whole career, solid. Well, not very good, just solid and well-rounded. Alperen Sengun, probably one of the top 5 or 7 best centers in the NBA right now. Kevin Durant, nothing need to be said. Aaron Holiday, who will have to take on a bigger role, seeing as he's one of the only guards on the team. So he'll definitely have to step it up this season. Steven Adams, he's just some team chemistry and bringing the team together, and he's also quite solid on the court. Reed Shepherd, who's taking on the starting point guard this year. He went from being in the summer league to being the starting. He went from being in the summer league last season and not having any play time to being the starting point guard, so I don't know how he'll take that. Personally, I think that Amen Thompson should be the starting point guard because he started in the NBA as a point guard. But that's just me. Jeff Green, who's just a veteran power forward, good to have veterans. Clint Capella, another veteran center, he's still pretty good. And Tari Eason, he's pretty good too. I think he should probably start at the power forward, but that's just me. Kevin Durant should start at the small forward, no doubt. drop in the comments if you've made it this far who should start, Dorian Finney-Smith or Tari Eason. But in the end, I have the Houston Rockets. Even though Van Vliet's out, I think they'll still have smaller chances, but might get there when it comes to title contention. Next, we have the Indiana Pacers, my favorite and hometown team in the NBA. Tyrese Halliburton is out for the season as he got that very, very sad Achilles injury at the end of last season. It's just so bumming that we almost got there. We weren't even seen to make it out. Like, some people had the Bucks over us in the first round. Literally in every single round, we weren't expected to win, but we made it to the finals, and we were 1 point up at halftime in Game 7 without Tyrese for like the whole second quarter, and we ended up only losing by like 9 points. So if that says something with the Pacers' chemistry and how they're just very underrated, I don't know what does. But if Tyrese was back, we'd be in this tier right here. But since he's not, I think we're still a good team. I think we'll still make the playoffs, so I'll put Pacers, our team, in sleeper team. All right, next is the Los Angeles Clippers, who is iffy on Kawhi Leonard. Hold on, let's just see real quick. Is Kawhi Leonard not on the Clippers anymore? Okay, Kawhi Leonard is still with the Clippers, which drastically changes this rating. Okay, so they got Chris Paul. They got their whole team's pretty much old except for Ivica Zubac. So just look at their roster real quick. They got John Collins, which I think will be a good fit for them. Ivica Zubac, who's just a rebound grabber. Chris Dunn, good off the bench player. Derrick Jones Jr., good off the bench player. Chris Paul, farewell tour. James Harden is probably going to leave the team after this season, but I hope he wins a ring before he retires because he's one of my favorite players. Nicholas Batum, good off the bench player. Bogdan Bogdanovic was good on the Pistons, and hopefully he's good for the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, defensive menace. Brook Lopez, I'm glad they got him. He's a good fit behind Ivica Zubac. Now they have a lot of depth. Bradley Beal, really good. Well, not really good, but like a good fit for the Clippers. I keep saying good fit, but it's just like this team made a lot of good decisions over the offseason. Then Cam Christie, good rising talent. So we'll put Los Angeles Clippers in smaller title chances, but getting there. Because if they would have lost Kawhi Leonard, I would have put them either here or could use some trades. But since I still have Kawhi, I'll put them in smaller chances, but could get there. All right, next team is the Los Angeles Lakers. They have basically, even though Big Three era is gone, they still kind of have a Big Three of LeBron and Luka and Ayton. I feel like LeBron being out for the first few months of the season will really show Lakers fans that they might be better without LeBron, with Luka running everything. And I think that LeBron, even though he's rumored to be traded, I think that he'll stay with the Lakers for the rest of the season and then leave with Bronny. But, yeah, Bronny's basically showed out in the offseason. He's pretty good, better than a lot of people said he was. A lot of people said he shouldn't have been drafted, but, hey, for a 55th pick, Bronny's doing pretty good. So I think he should have probably been in like the 30s or 40s. And, yeah, so basically the Lakers I have in smaller chances but getting there. They're not one of the top 5, but it's like they're getting there. They're going to be good. In the next 3 years, I think, well, in the next 5 seasons, I think the Lakers will win a chip. All right, the next team is the Memphis Grizzlies. Right now, people might think, oh, they got Ja Morant, they got Jaren Jackson Jr., they got Zach Edey. We're goated right now. That is not the case. If I was a fan of the Memphis Grizzlies, I would be depressed right now because their core just has no chemistry, and it's just one of the worst teams when it comes to letting their fans down. So I think that the Memphis Grizzlies could definitely use some trades. All right, next team is the Miami Heat. They have some of the two most promising young talents in the league in Kel'el Ware and Jaime Jaquez. They got Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. If they still had Jimmy Butler, I think they'd be right here. But since they don't have Jimmy Butler, that kind of changed the rankings a little bit. I don't know if you see it as the good or better, as Jimmy, I think, was for the better of the team. But for me, the Miami Heat, who didn't really make that many trades this offseason, they pretty much have the same roster other than their new picks. I'm going to put them in sleeper team for this season because they have a chance to make some sound in the bad East, but they won't get far, maybe the second round, if that. They might make the play-in and surprise people, but anything past that's just stretching it. All right, the next team is the Milwaukee Bucks, who is my least favorite team in the NBA right now. Actually, second least favorite behind the Thunder. But the Bucks, they do not know what to do. They don't know if they're rebuilding. They don't know if they're trying to still build around Giannis. They don't know if they're going to trade Giannis. They just don't know what they're doing right now. And I bet it's really upsetting for Bucks fans that they've just been bad for a couple seasons and have lost, especially the Pacers, for 2 seasons, which I'm glad about, but I'm sure Bucks fans aren't. And it's kind of sad seeing a team close, and I used to be a fan of just making stupid trades, and they should have never got Turner. I think Turner would have left either way, even if the Bucks didn't make the offer, but still, why would you get Turner if your roster is not deep at all? If your starters come off, you're losing the game. It's just not a good sight to see for any fans of any team. So could definitely use some trades to get better. All right, next team is the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't know if they're going to be down here this season or if they're going to be up here this season. They can be in any of these ranks. They surprise everybody every season. Nobody ever would know that the Timberwolves would make the Eastern Conference Finals last season or the Western Conference Finals last season without Cat. That was never seen. That was never predicted. But they got Julius Randle, who's I had going to the Jazz in the future, but that's just me. I had Julius Randle going to the Jazz. And then Rudy Gobert, overrated, should have never won. Maybe maximum he should have won 2 DPOYs. 4 is just way too many. Terrence Shannon, good bench player. Mike Conley, veteran point guard, getting too old. Joe Ingles, I think they're just keeping for a veteran. Bones Highland was with the Clippers, and I've seen some clips of him. He's good on the streets, but when it comes to NBA, he's mediocre. Naz Reid, very good center. Tristan Newton got from the Pacers. Oh, and this guy they got from the Pacers. Yeah, Rique Freeman definitely better than Tristan Newton, but they both weren't very good. I think Rob Dillingham, people simp on him for some reason, but he's not very good. Dante DiVincenzo, good guard, but he could use his talent somewhere else other than Minnesota at this point. Jaden McDaniels, these 3 right here, except for actually these 2, are underrated. These 2 have very good defense and are good off-the-bench players, and I think Jaden McDaniel actually starts, so he's a good player. Then Anthony Edwards, he's just one of the top 8 best players in the NBA right now. So I think the Timberwolves right now, they're either in one of these 2. Because they could trade Rudy Gobert or one of those guys, or Julius Randle for some good stuff and be good, or they could just keep their current roster like they have been. So, seeing as tradition says that they've kept their roster and been good, I'm just going to put sleeper team. Actually, they could use some trades, seeing as the Western Conference is very stacked this year and they probably won't make it far. So, yeah, they could use some trades. All right, next team is the New Orleans Pelicans. Not even going to say anything. Zion Williamson, every season said he's getting better. He is not. I don't think they should be down here. They don't need to use a total rebuild. They're just stuck in mediocrity. They're not going to rebuild. They're not going to do anything. They're just going to stay in this tier while next 5 seasons, maybe, unless they do some drastic changes. New York Knicks, they just have a very solid, well-rounded team. They got Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson. They got Mitchell Robinson, who's a good backup center to Karl Anthony Towns, and sometimes they start Towns at the power forward and Mitchell at the center, which almost worked against the Pacers, but we beat them. Just created that upset. We would have won the chip if Tyrese didn't get injured. But anyway, Knicks are in contention with this team right here, Cleveland Cavaliers, to make it to the finals in the East. Because basically the top 3 teams in the East this season are Cavs, Hawks, Knicks. And the Knicks have a chance to make it to the finals, which puts them in the title chances tier. It's been a while since they've won it, but they might do it this year. Oklahoma City Thunder, I just don't even know what to say. I hate to do this, but since they won the chip last season, I am forced to put them in title chances. They just got a very solid team. Luck over the years with the trades and draft picks and everything. It's just been luck for them. OKC fans, it's luck. This is also, I retake my statement about the Atlanta Hawks, Knicks, and Cavs being the only teams in contention for the finals through the East this year, as the Magic is the 4th team, as they had made a lot of good decisions in February and over the summer. So I'm going to put them in smaller chances, but getting there, as I think they might have a chance to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. Knocked out in the first round by the Celtics last year, might make it to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. And to be honest, I do not really like their new logo. I like their old logo better. 76ers. This is probably going to be my most controversial decision in the whole video. But I'm going to put the 76ers in smaller chances, but getting there, as I think this season they will be good. I know people have said that every season since 2020, but I think they have a chance this season. Something different is arising about this season that the 76ers will make a change. Phoenix Suns rebuild. They could use a rebuild is basically all that needs to be said. They have Devin Booker. Who else? Who else do they have that stays with the team lifetime and makes them better that you can name? So, yeah, just end it with that. Portland Trail Blazers, they are stuck in mediocrity. They have a good young core. Why did I say that? Why would I say they have a good young core? They don't have a good young core, but they have good young players in Shaden Sharp, Donovan Clingan, those kind of guys. But basically their main players this season will be Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard, the veterans. But they're just stuck in mediocrity. They might be up here, but I'm going to put them down here for now because they'd probably make it in the play-in if the West wasn't so stacked this year. This is one of the most stacked Wests in NBA history, so sorry, Portland, but you tried, but you're still in mediocrity. Sacramento Kings, they could use some trades. Sacramento Kings are just not good. On paper, they're very good. They make it to the second round or conference finals on paper, but in the real world, they don't even make the play-in. In the real world, they might make it on the bottom seed of the play-in or not even make it at all. And they got DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis, Malik Monk, all those guys, and they're still bad. I don't know what's going on, but they could use some trades. San Antonio Spurs. In my opinion, they are a sleeper team. With Victor Wembanyama growing 2 inches over the offseason and him just being a defensive menace, averaging like 3.5, 4 blocks a game, and them having young players in Dylan Harper. I don't know if you'd call De'Aaron Fox young, but I will. De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle. They got not young, but Devin Vassell. They just got so many people. I think the Spurs, out of any team in the NBA, have the most promising future. in the next like 7 seasons, I think they'll win 1 or 2 titles. Mark my words. All right, next team is the Toronto Raptors. They are, I don't know if they need a full rebuild, but they're stuck in mediocrity. They're just not very good right now. They got Brandon Ingram. On paper, they make it to the play-in or maybe even playoffs, but got Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel Quickly, Jakob Podol. But so on paper they make the play-in, but in the real world they're like the bottom 3-2 seed. They're in the bottom. The Utah Jazz need a full rebuild. I think they're trying to do that now. They got one of their first long-term, hopefully, pieces in Ace Bailey, and another hopefully long-term piece that they struck gold on at Walker Kessler. Hopefully they just keep the players that are good and trash the rest, and hopefully get some draft stock and power with them. And the last team, not coincidence, Washington Wizards has some title chances. Just kidding. They could use a rebuild. They got C.J. McCollum, and that's basically it. They have some promising young players in Alex Sarr. Kyle Kuzma was the worst thing that could happen to this franchise. It's just bad to see that kind of thing happen to a team. Kyle Kuzma being your best player. It's just ridiculous. The Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, Jonas Valanciunas era for the Wizards was the worst era in their history. So hopefully they don't go back on that and they just use this time to rebuild. Hopefully they don't rebuild around C.J. McCollum, but if that's what it takes, just go ahead and do it. That's going to be the end for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, as this video took a little bit. And I normally post shorts, but this is one of my first actual effort long-term videos, and hopefully you liked it. Goodbye.